This is Sarah Leslie with Go All In, helping entrepreneurs live the life they want to live right now, making the money they want to make the way they want to make it, while also living a rich and full life outside of their business. True personal freedom. Let's go. Welcome to today's episode of Go All In on your life and business. I'm your host, Sarah Leslie, and I want to kick this off with something personal. Hiring a coach completely changed my life. I'll admit, I didn't think I needed one at first. On paper, my life looked really great. I had a successful career. I was making quote unquote really good money. And it seemed like I had it all together. I mean, in fact, I did, right? I had all of the things that I thought would bring me that level of happiness. I had achieved all of those things. And the truth was, though, underneath it, I felt stuck. I was chained to the idea that working harder would eventually give me the freedom, the joy, and the fulfillment I craved. Spoiler alert, it didn't, right? And if you've been following me for a hot minute now, you know a little bit of my story. And the turning point for me that really started to change everything, there were a couple of these, but it's really when I finally started to actually invest in my own one-on-one coaching that everything began to shift. So I had worked with a coaching community prior to that. And that is when my life really shifted for the first time where I could see a different way than the path that I was currently on. Okay. And that was an invaluable experience. And I was first exposed to all things personal growth, whereas before then had really been primarily in the therapy world, a little bit on the edges of the therapy world and more like out of the box types of services and techniques to be able to use with clients, but not at the degree where you could achieve massive breakthrough in a very short period of time, which is what I learned inside of that community that I met with on a regular basis every couple of months over the course of 2 to 3 years. However, it only took me so far. And the part that was missing was the day-to-day learning, mentoring, advising, guiding of understanding and applying the content that I was learning and even the experiences that I was having, but then having them be applied to my life day to day. That was what was missing. And again, as a really successful professional, you would think, I would think that I could have taken what I was experiencing in those weekends and really apply them to my life experience. And of course I did, but similarly to how I would watch a really great talk or YouTube video or book and be inspired to integrate it into my life, right? It's like a little bit contextually versus having someone who's there day to day to day, right? And I'm not talking about a program where you're one of many or a program where you're literally learning about your nutritional health or you're literally learning how to build a course online and you're getting some mindset assistance and some mindset to go along with that. I'm still not talking about that. Those are all great, amazing things. I'll talk about that later. And what I'm talking about is working with someone one-on-one who's literally mentoring you, guiding you, teaching you, and helping you to apply the concepts you have heard about before and applying them, integrating them into your life. Right? That is when things radically shifted for me. Everything up till now felt hard or elusive, or like I still had to operate to some degree and within the bounds of reality and practicality while also having periods of feeling really good, right? I would go to those weekends and I'd feel amazing. And then I'd have to go back to real life, right? Now it's like I'm living inside of the weekend vibe all the time. Now, don't mishear me that my life never has challenges, because those weekend experiences had lots of ups and downs and emotional experiences inside of them. So it's just to say now that I've learned how to apply the changes to my life in a really integrative kind of a way, that my life has radically shifted to be beautiful and better than I just ever could have thought it was. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about how coaching can be your game changer, especially for people like you, people who are successful, who are driven, who've got big goals and dreams, and also want to live with more fulfillment, ease, and joy every day, not just when you're at vacation and not just on the weekends, but deep, profound joy all the time. I'm going to share some of my personal stories from clients that I've worked with and myself as well. People who are already excelling at life, yet found that coaching in the way that I'm describing it, right, was the breakthrough that actually helped them to get the greater, massive levels of clarity, of connection, of success, of self trust, and quick and ease decision making that allowed them to live in this more expansive state on an ongoing basis. So, wherever you're at in the journey, whether you're just curious about coaching, hiring a coaching, you're wondering if it's worth it, or if you're just simply ready to take your life, like ready to see your life go to the next level and your business to the next level in a way that feels fun and adventurous, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. You've already achieved so much, right? So you're thinking like, I don't really need coaching. I don't really like need someone to help me. This is the thing, right? It's not about needing someone to help you, right? So if you're miserable, like I was back at 38, I was literally miserable, and I still didn't need someone to help me, right? I could have continued to live in that way. Yeah, I could have. And I just didn't want to. So even though it appeared like I needed it, right? Because I was more in that desperate place, I didn't actually quote unquote need it, but I did need it to help me be able to get what I wanted. So whatever that looks like for you, right? If life is going really well, you don't quote unquote need it. You're not in the desperate. And if you're in the desperate, yeah, there's this part of you that does need it because you want something different. And so if you're successful, you can just know, right? It's not about needing it. It's about allowing it. It's about letting it in to support you and allow you to receive amazing, delicious, life-giving support. I mean, let me ask you, when is the last time you allowed in really delicious support? And how often do you do that? I mean, again, if you're a type A or you're a high achiever or you're used to doing it all on your own, probably this isn't a part of your normal way of being. It wasn't for me either. And honestly, I'm still learning how to like deeply receive, even though I've had amazing, high level, amazing coaching over the last 3+ years. I still am working on really allowing that person to speak truth into me in a way that I can just easily receive it. I will still at times have my defenses come up and feel like, ooh, versus just allowing it in and being excited about it. So, receiving support can look like so many different things. It could be something like super simple, like you're busy cooking in the kitchen for a group of people that you've invited over to your house, and someone comes along to offer, like usually multiple people are offering how to help, and you're like, no, 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 I got it all, right? There's also a window of denying receiving delicious support. So start to take notice for yourself. Like, how often do I allow amazing support into my life? How often do I allow even just the people alongside of me to pour into me? Let alone allowing a professional who's trained and that is their skill set to actually come alongside of you and help you move through life so much more easily and quickly to have what you want. So, part of why you don't do this, right, is because society says you should just figure it out on your own. And there are lots of ways this gets taught, even through various religions, definitely through school. I don't know about you, but I had several teachers who were like, you should be able to figure this out on your own. Don't work with your peers. Figure this out on your own. Just that concept, right? Certainly not all the time, but a lot of the time, the intonation there was, you should be able to do this on your own. And if you had parents that weren't like really super present and Montessori like, you probably learned that many years in your relationship with them. Again, we're not here to blame anybody. It's just the reality. People give what they have, and a lot of people don't have this way of being to be able to give. So, as that type of person, as you grew up, you just got used to being the one to figure it out and figuring it out on your own. Whether or not it felt hard or not, you did it. And then you became the person who helped other people, right? Does that sound familiar? I know I did that. And the reality is, yes, you can figure out the solutions on your own. It's just that, why do you want to? Like, really, right? If it were totally acceptable for you to receive help, wouldn't you desire to have someone come alongside you and support you and mentor you and guide you, especially in those areas where you're just not as knowledgeable or aware of how to apply them to your life? I know I did. I actually craved mentorship for many, 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 many years, and I sought out all different kinds of people, friends, family, professors in college, different adults that I met throughout my journey, my CPA at times I had that feeling towards, definitely different bosses that I had. I was craving like this deeper level of mentorship, right? If you grew up in the church, discipleship, like the way that Jesus talks about it in the Bible, where it's like hands on, you're living with him day to day, like the disciples got to, and he's like teaching you day to day how to implement the teachings that he spoke of, right? So again, please, the best that you can, don't be offended if religion is a sore area for you because of different, negative experiences that you had in religion. I totally understand where you're coming from. And hear me when I'm saying the concept of discipleship is actually a deeply beautiful thing. And that is where real, deep, profound growth happens when you allow that kind of juicy, delicious support to come in. The other thing that I definitely have heard a lot of, and I had for myself, was just the concept of do it with God. All you need is God to coach you. All you need is God to be the one that you go to figure it out. I'm not going to talk a long time about this. I'm just going to say a couple of quick statements, and maybe I'll do another podcast on that, why God isn't enough to be your coach. And it's this, right? It's not even that he's not enough. It's that God coaches through other humans. It's one of like the clearest, most beautiful way that God coaches, right? Counsels, advises, mentors, disciples is literally through humans. I believe it is why we are all here and why we have such a hunger for connection is because we actually have a hunger to be mentored, discipled, guided, learning from other humans. Like that's part of why we're here. And the other thing I'll just say about that, right? When you're in the position of receiving, a different version of you is required than the version of you that's out there just like constantly in the accomplishing mode and the striving mode. Receiving is very humbling. And again, it accesses more vulnerable, intimate places within you. And that is part of where the transformation comes from. Okay. And the last part I'm going to say about this is coaching and the allowing of someone else who's skilled and adept at seeing you and seeing your blind spots and helping you understand, like, why are you doing that? What is it that's going on right now in your thought process that is leading you to do that? Like, those are very deep, thoughtful questions that most humans are not asking each other. And that is where this type of coaching comes in, to be able to ask you questions that probe in such a way that they help you see what you can't currently see. In other words, they help you to expand your awareness of what you are doing, how you're going about creating your current experience in life. And if you don't stop and have that reflected back to you, chances are you're going to miss a lot of it. This creates space for clarity, like really deep, profound clarity and focus. It allows space for you to learn radical upleveling of self-leadership skills and come into a place of deep authenticity and alignment, right? You start to feel like you're no longer shoulding and having to, and you're actually in the being of who you have desired to be. So, one of the early clients that I worked with in my coaching years, right? I was a therapist, psychotherapist for over 20 years, a psychotherapist, and also a supervisor and clinical director. And then I shifted into coaching to really just give me more freedom and flexibility to offer the way I wanted to help others. And I worked with someone who had left a multi-million dollar company to start his own business. He was deeply inspired to put his own message, his own spin on things, and really be able to help other people in the way that he uniquely desired to serve others. And he struggled with allowing himself to receive help for quite some time. He left the company and struggled, I would say, probably for about 2 years. Failing really is how I would describe it now looking back on it. Really like failing and not allowing himself to, one, receive support, or two, be his own unique, authentic self. And so he was still operating in the mode of the version of himself that he was previously, which is amazing and successful and educated and all the great things, but not being his full self, right? Not fully expressing in the way that felt authentic, rather expressing himself through, I should do this, I have to be doing this, I have to work, 80-hour work weeks and call tons and tons of people every day to be able to get the sales and the accomplishments that he was intended to be getting in his current role, which left him neglecting a lot of time with his family, not developing the skills to be really deeply vulnerable and intimate with his significant others. And by that, I mean his family, and leaving him ultimately void inside. Okay. And so even as he descended into the depths of doing not well, he resisted receiving support. I actually reached out to him multiple times, someone that I've known and just felt very convicted to reach out to. And as we then decided, he shifted and decided to allow himself to receive support, and we started working together. And within 2 months, he was radically feeling better. Why? Because he had created space for clarity, for focus, right? He'd gone several years of not being clear of what he actually wanted. He had years of being able to get clear on what he didn't want, but wasn't clear, super clear on what he did want. And I'm talking about details what size house you want. I'm talking about the essence and the feeling and the creativity of what is it that your heart is desiring? What kind of freedom are you after, right? Does that make sense? And so as we began to work together, he got really clear, because that's a huge part of what I help people with, is to be able to create enough space and freedom within yourself, because you're here in the coaching container, which provides that level of safety. And I'm regularly guiding and supporting and reminding you that it's safe to allow the vision of what your heart desires to come out of you, right? And so we worked on that, and he allowed that vision to come out, and it was so beautiful and deeply moving to him, right? There were tears of being moved at how beautiful his vision was. And he could describe it and have a visceral reaction to the amazingness that it caused him to feel. And from there, we were able to then start to address the various types of shoulds and have tos and people pleasing tendencies and need for approval that needed to be tweaked, shifted, transmuted into powerful ways of leading himself, where he was no longer being, thrown around by the feelings of being responsible for everyone and needing to take care of all of the things and work, way more than he wanted to and desiring to get other people's approval. And we were able to help him shift and become a person who felt deeply empowered, who was able to tap into greater levels of trust within himself and deeply getting to know his own voice separate from all the other voices and reconnect with himself in such a powerful way that he was then able to show up both in his business and in his relationships and in his free time so radically different. Very, very quickly in the time that we worked together, his income radically increased because he had access to so much more freedom and creativity and spontaneity. And he was able to reconnect with his family members in such a way that he was so clear with what he wanted. And he was able to open up in more vulnerable and intimate ways, and also able to tap into places within his own physical body and the health that he desired to have for his physical body and start to really prioritize that where he had not done so for many, many years previously. Okay, so number 2. So just to summarize, right? Why successful people need coaching right here. Creates clarity, self-leadership skills, radical up-leveling of self-leadership skills, and radical alignment. So number 2 is overcoming the blocks that you can't see. Another way to say this is simply saying overcoming the things that you can't see that you are doing that are actually holding you back from being the person you desire to be and getting the results you desire to have. And this is the thing, right? We've all heard the term, probably all heard the term limiting beliefs. And I don't necessarily like to think about, I don't know that limiting beliefs is really a helpful phrase anymore because you've heard it so much, but it's simply to say you have beliefs that you believe and spend time thinking that are in you and govern the way you lead yourself that ultimately lead you to places you don't want to be, right? So things like fear and self-doubt and overthinking are often disguised as what's practical, what makes sense, what's reasonable, what's safe, what's the right thing to do. And so you think that they're truth. You think that they are facts that can't be changed. And so then you live inside of those and you then create results that reveal those beliefs that just prove your belief. And you continue to create that cycle over and over and over and over again. All the time being like, why do I keep creating these results that I don't want to have? And ultimately becoming less and less and less and less satisfied and excited with your life, right? I was just talking to somebody last night at a spontaneous event that we went to, and he was describing this work that sounded really like creative and amazing, how he had like pulled together different pieces of his life experience of college education and certifications and trainings, and sounded like he was doing really amazing work in the mental health space, only to summarize that he wanted to change careers. He was like tired of doing it. And I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if that's true." I didn't get to talk to him long enough to know. And what I felt so much more was this slow deadening of our gifts and our passions and our excitements because we're driven by beliefs that are filled with fear and self doubt, disguised as truths and facts. The thing is, your patterns of believing hold you hostage. Okay? When we think things are facts, it's us holding ourselves hostage. So, for instance, I'll just give you one of mine. When I was, working at the most recent 9 to 5 job that I had, I was the director of clinical services at a treatment center in South Florida. And I literally believed I couldn't go anywhere else and make the same kind of money that I was making there. Okay. And that's one of the things that kept me in that position, even though I was experiencing that same reality of slowly declining in my excitement about my job functions, which I loved doing. But slowly over time, I was being, depleted of my life force energy because I was making various compromises over time that I thought I had to make in order to keep that job that was the only job that was going to create that financial return for me. So I was slowly fading out into the background of my own life and feeling eventually miserable, right? So I was holding myself hostage with the belief I can't go anywhere else and make this kind of money. I also desperately wanted to travel and have days where I didn't go into the office and I could renew and rejuvenate myself outside of just the weekend. Because honestly, a lot of the weekends I was also working. And if I wasn't working, I was like dead tired and in recovery. And so I knew if I could have a day or two a week or every other week where I could work from home, that it would give me a really beautiful day, relaxed day of working and doing paperwork or documentation or being available over video. But that just wasn't approved at the time, right? This is before COVID. And so that awareness, right? Our patterns, our ways of thinking based on our beliefs hold us hostage. You don't even realize it. That's the thing. That's like so amazing. I didn't know I was holding myself hostage because I didn't understand all of these bigger concepts that I've been teaching to you in the podcast over the last many months. But truly, our past holds us hostage, right? When we continue to believe our past, and it influences all of our future decisions. So, like, instead of holding to the desire of your dreams, you want to like make more than enough money to support your lifestyle that encompasses beautiful, healthy, like shopping at Whole Foods or whatever, amazing grocery store that has great food and getting regular body work and taking regular vacations and learning how to cultivate deep intimacy with your significant other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? That lifestyle actually requires money. But if you don't believe that you could have that lifestyle or make that kind of money, then it's your past that is dictating your future decisions and even your decisions literally today, right? It's dictating all of it. Do you see that? Does that make sense? So, coaching is there to help unearth those specific belief patterns that you are operating from that are the very things holding you hostage, keeping you from ultimately being who you need to be in order to create this beautiful life, and or simply seeing what is truly available to you. Okay? And they can then actually teach you how to break free from that way of being, from that lifestyle, from holding yourself hostage, essentially. So I'm going to share just another story here, right? I have somebody that I worked with who's a business owner who just truly wanted more time with her family and desired better health, wanted to stop smoking, desired deeper relationships with her kids and with her spouse. and noticed like at work that she was avoiding a lot of uncomfortable situations and conversations because I just felt uncomfortable. And so realized that even though she loved work, she was really using it to escape a lot of the personal stressors that she experienced. And then also at work was avoiding certain things because they brought up a lot of stress. And so her business was also struggling and was not reaching the potential that she knew the business could achieve. And so this person also got to a really difficult place in life and was, we'll say, forced into, but it's like self-forced, right? It's like life circumstances said, hey, something really drastic has to change here in order for you to save your marriage and ultimately save yourself from continuing to live in a miserable way, right? And self-destruction. And so we worked together for over a year, maybe year and a half time period. And we got really focused in the first several months of working together on what is it that you want? Like really deeply accessing that part of herself that she had not allowed herself to go to, the imagination and the dreaming place to tap into the truth of what she was desiring. And then we started to move towards it by really helping her reconnect with that vision, understand these patterns and ways of being that she was using to hurt herself, right? Keeping her smoking, for instance, keeping her over drinking. Why? To escape the emotional disconnect that she felt from her life, from the emotional feelings of failure and disappointment that she was constantly feeling and not wanting to feel, right? And so I helped her to be able to see what was going on in her life in a whole new way that she had not ever seen before. And then as we began to address the root causes of her stressors and the avoidance of the emotional spaces that she didn't feel safe going to, and we created immense amounts of safety to be able to go there and unlock what was being held back and kept under wraps, and we just started to create balance and we started to create space for herself to take time off of work, to be away from the office and not feel guilty about it. And we created space for her to redesign the way that her business was operating and redesign her own role in the business to the way that she actually really wanted to be showing up in her role as CEO and in her role as mentor to other folks underneath her. And we radically shifted her day to day life experience. By the end of the time that we had worked together, she was reconnecting with her loved ones, her significant other, and her kids in a radically new way. She had shifted away from some of those self-destructive behaviors like smoking and over drinking, and she had scaled her business in a way that felt so much more aligned and gave her time outside the office to enjoy the things she really wanted to be doing. Okay, so lastly, expanding your potential is the other reason to hire a coach, right? If you don't see what you're capable of or what life could look like, then you're simply not going to step into it. Like you just don't know what you don't know. And so having someone there alongside of you, again, who's adept at being able to ask you just the right questions and pose just the right thoughts to consider, it reveals to you a roadmap of sorts that you would not have seen otherwise, right? You get to uncover way more of what's possible for you, for your life, for your business than you would not have seen without this support. And so a roadmap starts to unfold of how your life could look and how to go about getting there. It's not about working harder. It's actually about working differently. Sometimes I say working smarter just because that's like the adage. And truthfully, more accurately, I should say, it's about working differently. Success becomes exciting and new and fresh. And you start to see how, because you're now shifting your identity, you're no longer the person who says, I can't do that, or that has to go on the back burner and I can't do that now. I'll have to do that later. You literally stop saying any of those things and you start looking at, how do I go about creating this? Because this is what I'm really craving right now. So you start to see how success feels energetic and exciting and now sustainable and now aligned, authentic, empowering. You no longer are seeing how you're no longer feeling like you need a vacation from your life. You're no longer seeing how have had periods where you are one person in this avenue and another person over here and another person over here. No, you're now this integrated self on this one path journey. And lastly, in the expansion, right, is coaches challenge you. So they're able to, again, help you see the version of yourself that you can't currently see, that you actually must become in order to create those extraordinary life results that you're desiring. In order to not just create more money, like powerfully power through and forcefully create more money, but actually be able to see how you can enjoy creating more money because you are accessing greater levels of your own wisdom and your own unique creativity. So, literally, a new version of you becomes attainable, becomes receivable, becomes who you actually want to be. And you start to step into that version that feels more free, more expansive, and you start to do things that you just haven't been doing before, taking advantage of different opportunities that have been around you all the time, but you just hadn't seen them or hadn't seen how you could step into them. And you start creating these like amazing, beautiful, beautiful results. So, my client Susie, a former architect turned coach, had had a very successful career as an architect, left her position there because she desired to help other people in her industry to become even more successful in their own right by allowing more of their voice to be expressed, right? She was seeing all these different people in her realm who were not able to articulate what they wanted, who were not able to share their greatest gifts in the workplace, herself included. She had all these like great ideas and then would take them to her boss and feel totally shut down and basically just told no. And got to the point where she eventually was told, if that's what you want to be doing, you're going to have to go do that on your own. She decided to take them up on that and decided to leave. And very shortly after that, decided, I don't actually want to go do these things on my own. I actually want to go back and help versions of myself who are stuck over there, feeling like they can't express themselves. They can't contribute in the way that they truly desire to, solving big world problems. And so she wanted to go into coaching, consulting, coaching, strategizing, all that kind of thing, but really dialing in on the mindset and the identity piece, right? Similar to what I offer. And she'd been, as I said, very talented, hardworking, and yet felt super paralyzed by self-doubt and fear of judgment, and didn't know how to step into true self-leadership for her to be able to create her own business. So for a year, she worked under a very well-known program in the coaching industry and worked their program super diligently. It was a program that you could step into and basically acquire a business, a format for running a business. And she diligently attended all of the calls, took in all of the content, all the material, and enjoyed learning the content for sure. It was like exactly the type of work she wanted to do, but it was someone else's work. It wasn't her own. It wasn't her own creative spin on things. And so she felt very still stuck inside of now someone else's thing. And also found herself not creating clients and feeling unsuccessful in her business and her year to 2 years out of having left her job. And so she was struggling even more with these feelings of self doubt and fear and failure when she came to work with me. And she had heard me do a talk about how you are naturally born an entrepreneur and a CEO, meant to allow for all of your creative expressions to come forth and create the things that your mind and your heart desire to create. Like all the things, not just personal life, but also in your business, like the gifts that you are meant to bring into the world. And as we started working together, again, we had to like really, for her, there was a lot of shame around feeling not good enough, feeling like an imposter, feeling like who is she to give these great gifts to the world and to become this, person that helped other people. And there was a lot of breaking through to get to a place of seeing her deeply inherent value and appreciating her own unique gifts, and to stop comparing herself to other people and where they were at on their journey and then using it against herself, but rather embracing where she was at in the journey and recognizing there were lots of people out there in her world that needed her exactly where she was on her own journey. And so there was the understanding of her beliefs that she was operating from, and the family lineage that had been passed down around not being able to make certain amount of money, not being able to live a really healthy lifestyle, not being able to be really deeply lovable by many people, and able to really deeply enjoy your life. And we had to work through those and then help her to really implement strategies of how to let go of that old version of herself, renew her mind, and become this new version of her that felt deeply lovable, deeply valuable, embraced her own unique gifts, fell in love with her own body, and allowed for her creativity to come out and be fully expressed. To then go on over the couple of years that we worked together to create a very successful, thriving coaching business, creating regular clients, earning a beautiful, steady income, living with greater confidence and deep joy. Whatever stage you're at, I highly recommend a coach. And as you're in the process of who do I hire, it's someone who's able to help you break the habit of being you, break the hostage pattern that you have set up with yourself, and actually gain vast, deep amounts of clarity, of focus, of freedom, internal freedom, of deep, satisfying feelings of your life and your sense of belonging in the world. That is what I got from my experience of coaching. And again, I've worked with lots of different coaches over the last, as of this recording, 8 years, and they've all played a fantastic, immensely valuable, important role in my life. And the radical shifts that I've had in the last 3 to 4 years has come as a result of my receiving one-on-one regular coaching inside of a coaching container with clear goals and desires that I had, where the other person, the coach that I have now, is supporting me to create those goals and live according to what feels authentic and aligned for me. What would you be able to achieve in your life if you had this type of beautiful support? I want to invite you to explore coaching, receiving this kind of amazing, delicious support from me or another coach or, person that you've come across in the industry that you feel like would be deeply aligned for you. In closing, if you feel the resonance and the excitement around what coaching in this particular way has to offer you, of course, The first step is reaching out to me to set up a call where you and I get to know each other better. I get to hear about your big dreams and your life vision. I will help you get really clear on what it is that's currently holding you hostage, and then help you to see that blueprint of what's possible for your life and how I might be able to support you having that happen in a relatively quick period of time. All right, you guys, I appreciate you being here and listening and sharing in the journey of life and expanding into our greatest potential and living into the fullest expressions of ourselves, where we feel free to be who we want to be. Cheers. And until next time, go do that thing you most want to be doing today. And I'll see you soon. Ready to hire your own personal one-to-one mentor to help you take your life and your business to the next level? Go to my website where you can sign up for a no charge, no pressure consultation where we can get to know each other better. I get to hear your vision. I'll help you understand exactly what's getting in your way. And if it feels like a good fit and I believe I can help you, we'll talk about what it looks like to work together.